Well, it's time to move on from the cylinder over to the truncated cylinder. So don't forget when we did the cylinder, we changed the diameter to 2 1/4, and it was 5 inches tall. The truncated cylinder really is the cylinder, and what we do is we just chop it, not necessarily half, but we're going to chop it down at an angle. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this development and modify it so that we have a truncated cylinder. So before we go any further, don't forget this diameter is going to be 2 1/4. And I think what I want to do is want to make this 1.5 and to make this 3.5. I think the bigger it is, the easier it's going to be to fold up. So what I'm going to do for you is I am going to give you a copy in Google Classroom of this cylinder development. Okay, so in Google Classroom, you can go there and I've attached this file for everybody. All right, so what I've done is I've just made sure that the file is accurate. And it looked like Ryan was having good luck with these tall tabs, so I made the tabs a little taller. So this is in the file for you. What we're going to do is we're going to modify this drawing. So before we get there, though, if we're looking down on this, right, we're looking straight down. You know, it's still a perfect circle down here on the bottom. All right, with a diameter of 2 1/4. And then when we look here, this turns out to be some kind of oval or elliptical shape. So really what we're doing, all right, we're probably going to get rid of the top circle, all right, and we're going to shrink this whole thing down. We only want it to be 3.5 inches tall now. So I'd probably take this line and I'll offset it up, say 3.5. I think we're going to be in here someplace, all right. And then this part was only 1 1/2. So I think what I'll do is I'll take this line and I'll offset it up 1 1/2. And we'll get something that looks like that. All right, so this part, all right, this part's going to be the cylinder, just wraps around the circumference of this circle, which we've already got figured out. The glue tab would just be like in this area now, so we're going to glue that over to that. We know that this distance right here is 1.5. Well, it's going to wrap around. It's going to connect over to here. So this has to be 1.5 also. And then the tall part, right? The tallest part right there is 3.5. All right. So what we need to do is we need to connect from here to there to make that slope. And then from here down to here to make that slope. Unfortunately, I oversimplified it here. The slope is not going to be represented with a straight line. It's not going to be linear. So we're going to have to see how to figure this out. So this is not accurate at all right here, but I just want to kind of show you where we're headed. All right, and now we know that the top is some kind of elliptical shape, oval. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that ellipse is going to be out here. All right, and what we could do is we could print this out, cut it out, and fold it up, and hopefully it works. So let's switch over to AutoCAD. Here we are. So that's the first step, is to go to Google Classroom, get this file, open it up, make sure you save it to your Google Drive. I called it Chunk Cylinder Student. Okay, so this is the truncated cylinder for each student is going to get one of these. So let's go ahead and start doing what I described. So I'm going to grab the offset tool to start with. There's offset. I know the total height is 3.5. So I'm going to offset the bottom line up 3.5. And then I'm going to do offset again. And this time I'm going to offset up 1.5. All right, so this bottom part, here's that cylinder that's going to wrap around. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to keep modifying and erasing things so we don't get confused while we're going here. I'm going to take this line and I'm going to move it from where it is up there down to here, because that's going to be our glue tab. So I'm going to move. I pick the line. I hit enter. It wants to know a base point. Well, there's my base point, and I move it to that base point. So I'm going from a point to a point. So now I can see I need to maybe trim this line, so I'll trim it. And I think I'll trim this, and I'll trim this, and I'll trim this, or maybe just get rid of it altogether. All right, so um, our development is going to kind of be down in this area. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this circle. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the circle. I don't care about the uh, the tabs. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to slide that circle over here because that circle is a diameter of 2¼ I don't really need to remake that. All right, I guess I can erase all those little pieces. All right, so really looking down on this thing, if I was looking down, straight down on this, even though from the side here it looks like it's an ellipse, don't forget, if we look straight down, it's got a circular bottom, so we would see a circle. So we're looking straight down, we see a circle, and now what I want to do is I want to draw, like, I call this the front view, looking in from the side or the front. I need to draw that. So here we are. So what I'm going to do is I got my line tool out. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make sure my ortho button is on, right? So straight up and down, ortho is there. I'm going to make sure my O snaps are turned on. All right. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hit the down arrow next to it, and just, if everybody could do this, just review it. So we got endpoint on, midpoint on, center point on. Turn this one on, node. Okay, got node on, got quadrant on, got intersection on, and I think I'll turn off extension. So I've got endpoint, midpoint, center, node, quadrant, intersection. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to draw a line from the quadrant straight down. I'm going to draw a line from the left quadrant straight down. Got it. I'm going to draw a line from the bottom left-hand corner here straight over. All right, I'm going to draw a line from here straight over. And I'm going to draw a line from here straight over. And if you can imagine, we're kind of drawing that front view, the angled view. So I'm going to come from here, the intersection, to there. All right, and now I'm going to do a little go crazy trimming here. I'm going to trim that, trim, 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 trim. So this is the top view, and this is what I call the side view or the front view. All right, so now it's going to get a little tricky. Okay, I like to consider it fun, but what I want to do is I want to divide this circle up into 12 equal parts. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and grab the line tool. I'm going to come up here where it says bilayer, and there's a little color swatch. Just to make life interesting, I'm going to change the color so that, because this is going to get a little confusing. I'm going to go from the center of the circle to the quadrant of the circle. So I got one red spoke. Okay, now I want to do a total of 12 of them. So we know we can do the polar array, which is right there. Polar array. It says select objects. I want to select that object. I hit enter. It says select the center point. Right there's the center point. All right, and I want a total of 12 items. So I'm going to hit 12, and this takes a second. So it's processing. There we go. We got our 12 red spokes. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I still have my red color going here, so I'm going to grab a line. I'm going to drop a line from the end of this spoke. I'm just going to go straight down. And then I'm going to drop a line from the end of this spoke, and it goes through that spoke, and I go straight down. All right, so I'm dropping lines from the end of the spokes straight down, straight down, straight down, and straight down. So really, you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What was it? 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. We got 7 lines coming down, and we covered all the endpoints of the spoke. Okay, so what we've done, think about this, is we divided the circumference of this circle. The circumference of this circle, we divided up into 12 parts. Right, so right there is 1/12 of the circumference. So I kind of want to do that down here, because don't forget, this was the circumference, right? That's the circumference. So I want to divide this circumference into 12 equal parts, okay? So I'm going to do this. Brand new tool. You've never used it. It's up here under the draw toolbar or palette. If you hit the down arrow, very difficult to see, but it's right here. It's called divide. The picture has like a little N in it, if you can see that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to divide. It says select the object to divide. I'm going to pick this bottom line. And now it says enter the number of segments. Well, I want 12 segments. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And I'm going to come over here and I pick the line. And it still looks like one big line. It doesn't look like 12 different segments. Just for the heck of it, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the line. And I can't even zoom up any further for you to see this, but there's a little dot right there, and there's a dot right there, and there's a dot right there, and it's a dot right there. So really, what divide did, it didn't actually divide the line, but it put points there. So those points are important to me. Those were nodes. Okay, so I want to snap to those points. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the line tool. And I think I better change some colors here. So I'm going to change this to another color that I can see pretty well. How about a blue? I'm going to come from right there. I'm snapping to a node, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line straight up. And I'm going to do that 10 more times here. So I'm just drawing lines. There is an easier way to do this. However, at this point, I think I just want to snap to a node. Okay, and right there, that's saying midpoint. Right there's the node. Honestly, the midpoint and the node are going to be the same. All right, so here we go. I've got my circumference divided up into 12 equal parts here. I divide the circumference up into 12 equal parts over here. And if you remember, right, this has to wrap around. So this is 1.5 inches. So it's going to start here. It's going to travel up, and then it's going to come down, back down to here. This center point right here, that's going to be our highest point. All right, so let's do this. I think I'll make life interesting and change the color again to maybe magenta. I like magenta. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the very top of the slope over. I'm going to draw a line from the intersection with that line, with the slope and that line. I draw that over. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm drawing lines, straight lines, from the intersection of the slope and the vertical spoke projections. All right, so what we've got here is we kind of have a graph. We got some grid paper. All right, and so now we know that I said we're going to connect this point up to this point and then back down to this point, but it's not going to be linear. So again, I'm going to change the color up, and this time maybe I'll go to green. All right, so it's not a line. Okay, so we need to find, we're going to hit the down arrow next to draw. This thing right there is called a spline. Okay, so we're going to use the spline tool. So there's spline. It says specify the first point. Well, our first point is right here. It's really at the intersection. Okay, right here at the intersection. And then what I do, I click once, I move over one and up one. I move over one and up one. Over one, up one, over one, up one, over one, up one, over, up. Okay, now I'm going to go over, down, over, down, over, down, over, down, over, down, and finally I'm going to end it. All right, and in order to end this command, what I need to do is just hit enter. All right, so you can see here we've got this kind of sloping curvy curve. It's not linear. I think what I'm going to do right now is I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to change this back to black. All right, and now what I'm going to do is maybe I'm going to change this color to red. So this is what we're looking for. And now you remember I said we need to make a top for this. A top is going to be an ellipse. I want to put an ellipse over here. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and I'm going to maybe change the color to red. And I'm just going to draw a line, regular old line, from right here down to here. So if you watch real careful, I'm just going from the corner of one box up there to the corner of the next box. So this is kind of like, I call like a best fit line right here. That red line is not the same as that black curve. It does intersect right there. So that's kind of nice. We're gonna come back to that in a second. So I think what I want to do right now is, so that I'm not so confused, is I'm going to take all these lines and I'm going to delete them. And then I'm going to take this top line and I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to delete it. And I think I'll take this one and I'll delete it. I'm going to take this line and I'm going to delete it. I need to do some trimming, so I'll trim this and I'll trim this. And now we need to go ahead and make the ellipse up here. All right, so again, I'm going to zoom up on this. I'm looking for that red line. Okay, so I'm zoomed way up. And this is the first time using the ellipse tool, right? But when we're dealing with ellipses, right, if we have an ellipse, what we have is the major axis. All right, that's our major axis, and this would be our minor axis. Well, we know something about our ellipse, okay? Because this is still 2 1/4 down the bottom, this part right here is 2 1/4. All right, so this part right here is 2 1/4. We know that. What we don't know is how long this is. So let's do this. Let's go to AutoCAD. All right, I'm going to come over here. Maybe so you're not so confused, I'll delete those lines. And what I want to do is I want to find out the length of that line. So the tool I like to use is List. I know you're familiar with List, but check this out. How about over here at Measure? If I hit the drop down arrow here, Distance, I measure from here to there, and that says is 3.0104, 3.0104. So let me just show you what I got. This distance is 3.0104. All right. Now, I want to take half of 2 1/4. Half of 2 1/4 would be, half of 2 is 1, half of a quarter is 1/8. 1 1/8. Now, half of 3 is 1 1/2. And if I take half of that, we're talking some really, really small number. All right. Don't forget, we're cutting this thing out of paper and scissors. So we have some room for error. So that number right there, 1 1/2, is going to be our major axis radial distance. And then from here to here is our minor axis radial distance. So how are we going to use that? Going to come over here. We're going to zoom up. Okay, I'm looking for that, for the line. Okay, not the curve. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to offset 1 1/8, which is 1.125. Right, so I'm offsetting 1.125. I'm going to be really careful. I'm going to pick the red line or whatever color you got, and I'm going to offset it 1.125. Okay, so that's going to be like the center axis. Now I'm going to take this line and I'm going to offset it 1.125. Now that I've got that, I'm going to draw a line from the middle point over here to the middle point. And now I've got this axis. Now I'm going to offset the 1.5. So I'm going to offset 1.5. I offset this that way, this that way. I think I'll extend this line. I'll extend this line. Our ellipse is going to be in this area right here. And these are the endpoints of the major and minor diameters. So now we have to find the ellipse tool. It's on the draw toolbar right there. There it is. I pick it, read what it says. It says specify the center of the ellipse. Well, the center of the ellipse is going to be right there. Then it says specify an endpoint of the axis. Well, there's one endpoint right there. And then specify a distance or other axis. Well, there is an axis right there. All right, so let me just zoom out and show you what we've got. We have got, there's our bottom. That's going to be the side of our truncated cylinder. Here's going to be the top of it. Now what we need to do is we need to make some tabs over here, which is going to be kind of a pain in the neck. We're just going to go ahead and make it up a little bit. So I'm going to offset, I'm going to offset 0.75. So I offset the ellipse out 0.75. I might extend this line a little bit. I might extend this line a little bit. I'm going to grab the line tool and I'm going to go from here. I'm going to turn my ortho off and I'm just going to make this up. Okay, I'm making that angle up. So once I have that angle, I want to do a mirror image on the other side. So I'll do mirror. I'll pick that line and I'll mirror it about this axis. I'll delete that. Maybe I will trim this. I want to do the same thing over here. Again, I know where the tip of the tab is going to be right there. Again, I'm making it up. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and figure out some kind of angle. I'm going to mirror it over. I'm going to take that line. I'm going to mirror it about this imaginary line. Or actually, it's not imaginary. There it is. And I'm going to start deleting some stuff. I'm going to delete some stuff. I'm going to do some trimming. And now I need to get this tab down to here. So again, I'll use the mirror tool. Mirror that line. Mirror that line. And I'm going to mirror it about this axis. There it is. I'll delete some things so it looks a little clearer. And so that should be our development. There's the bottom, there's the top, there's the sides. I'm ready to print this thing. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit print. I'm going to choose the 605 printer. We're going to do letter paper. This time, we don't want to print all this stuff. We only want the development part. So I'm going to click on window. All right, now it says specify the first corner of the window. I'm going to have to, this might take a little practice here, but I'm going to say I want to go from here to there. I want to print everything inside of that window. I want to put on a piece of paper. So I go ahead and I click. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that it fits. I click off fit to paper. I go to 1-to-1. All right, I'm going to preview it. And I think it's looking pretty good. The whole thing's going to fit. I should have put my name on it. So make sure before you do this, you're going to print this or put your name on it, print it out. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit plot. And you're going to get this thing out of the printer, cut it out, roll it up, fold it up, and see if we're able to successfully make the truncated cylinder.